Yesterday, Donald Trump's Attorney General Jeff Sessions testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee, the, I guess now de facto lead congressional investigation on Russia after the House panel became an absolute embarrassment. And Sessions is caught up sort of in two strands of the Trump-Russia scandal. Number one, Trump associates communicating with Russia before the election, of which he is one, and Donald Trump's suspected interference with the FBI's investigation into Trump-Russia collusion. So Jeff Sessions showed up. He took an oath to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God, which he accepted. He took questions about both of these issues yesterday. And number one, what did we really learn? We learned that Jeff Sessions is the most forgetful person maybe in all of Washington, D.C. We'll get to that in a little bit. And I ended up being completely right that Sessions was going to show up and openly and properly answer questions which make him look good, which are never talk to this person, never talk to that person, no collusion, didn't know what was going on there. My recusal was solid and upheld. And all of a sudden, when the questions are ones that might make him not look quite so good, he's either going to not remember or refuse to answer. And I told you last week, NSA Director Mike Rogers, Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates, Acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe, and Assistant Attorney General Rod Rosenstein showed up before the Senate Intel panel, and they said, oh, we're just not going to answer certain questions. And when Angus King, a senator on the panel, said, well, what's your legal basis for not answering these questions? Dan Coates, for example, said, I don't think I have a legal basis. I'm just not going to answer. And amazingly, Jeff Sessions cited last week's testimony as to why he believes it's normal not to answer questions when he doesn't feel like it. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. First, listen to how Jeff Sessions answers questions about credible allegations that have been made against him. During his confirmation hearing to become AG, Sessions specifically volunteered, I haven't met with Russians during the campaign. We later found out that wasn't true. He did meet at least 2 times with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, and Sessions admitted it, but tried to spin it by saying, I wasn't lying because Kislyak didn't talk about the campaign. I thought we were talking about other surrogates, even though it doesn't really explain why Sessions didn't disclose that when he was applying for a security clearance. But in any case, at yesterday's hearing, he continued this unbelievable story about how he didn't lie at his confirmation hearing.
I was responding to this allegation that we had met, surrogates had been meeting with the Russians on a regular basis. It simply did not occur to me to go further than the context of the question and to list any conversations that I may have had with Russians in routine situations, as I had many routine meetings with other foreign officials.
Totally not credible. I mean, just reading a poorly written script to try to explain the unexplainable. And the original report was Sessions had 2 meetings with Russian officials. Sessions denied the allegation that he had a 3rd undisclosed meeting with Kislyak at a DC hotel in April of last year. And Sessions said, well, I forgot that Kislyak was at that get-together. If he was there, I may have talked to him. I don't remember / I don't know.
So when you said you possibly had a meeting with Mr. Kislyak, did you mean you possibly met him?
I didn't have any formal meeting with him. I'm confident of that, but I may have had an encounter during the reception. That's the only thing I cannot say with certainty. I did not.
Reminds me of the way he answered questions at the hearing for his federal judgeship in 1986, which he ultimately failed to get through successfully.
He was brought face to face with things he personally had said. For example, that the NAACP and the Civil Liberties Union are un-American organizations.
These comments that you could say about a commie organization or something, I may have said something like that in a general way that probably was wrong.
Everything that Jeff Sessions said about his meetings with the Russians was qualified with maybe, I don't know, I don't believe so, I don't remember, I can't recall. John McCain asked Sessions what he talked about with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak.
I just don't have a real recall of the meeting. I was not making a report about it to anyone. I just was basically willing to meet and see what he discussed.
And his response was?
I don't recall.
More I don't remember with Senator Kamala Harris, Democrat from California.
Did you have any communications with Russian officials for any reason during the campaign that have not been disclosed in public or to this committee?
I don't recall it, but I have to tell you, I cannot testify to what was said as we were standing at the Republican convention before the podium where I spoke.
My question is only as it
don't have the
relates to your
detailed
knowledge.
memory of that.
Okay,
and
as it
I'm
relates
honest
to your
with you.
knowledge.
The
Did
best
you
of
have
my-
any communication with any Russian businessmen or any Russian nationals?
I don't believe I had any conversation with Russian businessmen or Russian nationals.
Are you aware of any
Although
communications?
a lot of people were at the convention, it's conceivable that somebody
Sir,
came
I
up to me.
have just a few
Well, you let
minutes.
me qualify it. If
Okay.
I don't qualify it, you'll accuse me of lying. So I need to be correct as best I can.
do want you to be
And I'm
honest.
not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
The way he smiles at Kamala Harris in this next clip, if you're watching, it really just seems like he's messing with her, and he knows that he's deliberately doing that. I just don't know, ma'am.
Are you aware of any communications with other Trump campaign officials and associates that they had with Russian officials or any Russian nationals?
I don't recall that
And are you aware of
at
any...
this moment.
Right now, I am not able to recall whether or not what you said, what you're asking about, may or may not have taken place.
Remind me never to meet with Sergei Kislyak or any of these other Russian officials because apparently they're incredibly boring people.
Nobody can remember. Just nobody knows. What did we talk about? Did we even meet? And the only things Jeff Sessions seemed to be able to remember and express super clearly was that he didn't do anything wrong. That part he was damn sure about. And when it came to whether or not he talked to Russians about interfering with the election, all of a sudden, he could remember what was discussed in the meetings. Take a look at this.
And and the suggestion that I participated in any collusion, that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years.
Yeah, that part he's sure about. That didn't happen. So that's the I don't recall part of Jeff Sessions, the most forgetful guy on Capitol Hill. But then there's this other bogus thing he did. There's something called executive privilege, okay? The president has the ability to not answer certain questions in settings like these by invoking what is called executive privilege. Trump knew that this hearing was going on, and he opted not to invoke executive privilege to prevent Jeff Sessions from talking about certain things, okay? So to be clear, executive privilege was not invoked here. But what Jeff Sessions did when he didn't want to answer certain questions is say, well, out of respect for the possibility that Donald Trump might in the future want to invoke executive privilege, although he didn't actually invoke it, I'm not going to answer those questions. And it is just an incoherent explanation as to why he's not going to answer questions. Take a look at this.
Mr. Attorney General, thank you for joining us today. I respect
Thank
your
you.
willingness to be here.
Thank
You
you.
testified a few minutes ago, I'm not able to invoke executive privilege. That's up to the president. Has the president invoked executive privilege in the case of your testimony here today?
He has not.
Then what is the basis of your refusal to answer these questions?
Senator Kane, the president has a constitutional...
I understand that, but the president hasn't asserted it.
Well, I'll
You
give-
said you don't have the power to assert the power of executive privilege, so what is the legal basis for your refusal to answer these questions?
I am protecting the right of the president to assert it if he chooses, and there may be other privileges that could apply in this circumstance.
Unintelligible. The president hasn't asserted it. I have no right to assert it, but I'm protecting the president's right to maybe assert it in the future. Legal experts are saying this is not how executive privilege works. And Senator Kamala Harris also tried asking Jeff Sessions about this bizarre defense for not answering questions during the hearing.
Is that policy in writing somewhere?
I think so.
So did you not consult it before you came before this committee, knowing we would ask you questions about
Well,
that?
we talked about it. The policy is
Did you ask
based,
that it would be shown to you?
the policy is based on the principle that the president...
Sir, I'm not asking about the principle. I'm asking when you
Well, I'm
knew that you
unable
would be
to
asked
answer the
these
question.
questions and you would rely on that policy. Did you not ask your staff to show you the policy that would be the basis for you refusing to answer the
Chairman,
majority
a
of
witness
questions that have been
should be
asked of
allowed-
you.
So let's skip the last couple clips, which are less relevant, Pat. Sessions maintains what? He didn't lie at any point. He hasn't done anything wrong, but there's a lot of stuff he's not willing to talk about. And he maintains that his recommendation to fire James Comey didn't violate the recusal when clearly it did. He was under oath. He swore to tell the whole truth, but he wouldn't answer any questions about conversations that he's had with Donald Trump. And by the way, he has not done anything to dispel any of the assertions of James Comey, corroborating some and merely not addressing others.
He also is in this very tough position, though, because he doesn't want to upset Trump.
Right.
Wants to allow Trump to live another day, and he also can't be caught lying under oath again.
Again, right.
And the way you do that is just to say you don't remember, because it's hard to prove that you forgot something.
It is one of the most common legal tactics, which is who can prove you do remember something. You might have forgotten, and it is something that Jeff Sessions has taken advantage of boldly and brazenly, and we really learned very little from this hearing.